Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it. Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Jenny. How are you today?
I just don't know about your baby bird. You keep flapping your gums over there about your baby bird.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic last night went 1 for 9 from 3. He can't shoot.
He had an off night.
He's a baby sparrow.
What about your guy last night? What about your guy last night?
Back-to-back on the road. That's what happens.
Don't do that.
You play in Atlanta, you play at Brooklyn. And those Nets, can they play defense?
Man,
you better believe it.
20 years old. You can't do a back-to-back at 20.
Yeah.
I hate to see him at 25.
You guys are fired up. I like the way this is starting today. All right, we're going to get to all that, but we are 3 weeks from the draft, which means everyone is weighing in right now, including Richard Sherman. Let me explain. While initial reports were that the 49ers were eyeing Mac Jones with the third pick, there were also reports that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan differed on which QB to take. Former Niner Richard Sherman said that he believes San Fran will draft Justin Fields. Sherman also said Fields is fighting against the black quarterback stereotype, saying, quote, they're pigeonholing Justin Fields. He is literally the most efficient, if not one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the draft. So, Shannon, does he have a point here?
Yeah, Skip, unfortunately, the black quarterback element still seeps into when you hear them talk. And it's not, you have to know what you're listening for because it's coded. Last in, first out. Does he process information fast enough? Does he put in the work? That's how they do it now, Skip. And you know, they used to just come out and say it, you know, he just can't think fast enough on his feet. They used to have a problem saying it. Now you have to be a little bit more cautious of how you try to get that same thing out. Skip, for me, is that's the question that the black quarterback has always had to face. He had to be twice as good just to be half accepted. And Justin Fields is going through this. Now, his first year starting at Ohio State, 51 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions. This year he was down a little bit, but his completion percentage.
I mean, they only played 8 games.
They only played 8 games, right. He had 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
But Skip, they make it
22-6. But so.
Yeah, okay. Which is still pretty good ratio. Mm-hmm. So a guy in 2 years of starting to throw 9 interceptions and has over 70 touchdowns. I think that's pretty good. But, Skip, that's just what it is. And if you remember when Lamar Jackson come out, see, and normally you and I talking and people, analysts that sit across and they debate, if they say things, that's one thing. But it's when people that have gold jacket like myself that's been in charge of putting teams together, championship caliber teams, said, oh, he should switch positions. Something you never heard about Johnny Manziel. You've never heard, man, Johnny's the last in, the first out. Johnny process information. You never heard that about Ryan Leaf. You really never hear that about the right counterparts.
No, wait a second. Johnny Manziel's work ethic was highly questioned.
No.
Trust me.
No. His behavior off the field.
But also his work ethic, like he just didn't care enough.
No, he didn't.
Well, obviously, but it was highly questioned. Go ahead.
My thing is, Skip, is that with Justin Fields, I don't really know what else he can do. All you have to do is go. But now I don't have a problem, before I say that, I don't have a problem with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan going to this, because I believe when you move up this high, Skip, there should be a consensus. You don't want to split. Now, Skip, you've been pretty much joined at the hip with everything you've done since you've gotten there. And you move up, you've kind of mortgaged your future. The guy that you're going to take at this spot right here, he's your future. Skip, you want to be okay. Can we agree on this one? So I don't have a problem with them going to the pro day. But Skip, I just don't get this.
Okay, so now they're going to have a second pro day, right. And Kyle and John say, we will go to this one.
Right.
And they indicated that Justin Fields' agent said, well, it's okay because we're going to do a second one. And so they went to the second Alabama Pro Day to look up close and personal at Mac Jones.
And to know that they were going to get a second look at Justin Fields. Okay. Our first look at Justin Fields through a second Pro Day.
Okay, go ahead.
Skip, this goes back to Warren Moon. Warren Moon is the only black quarterback that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Warren Moon had to go to Canada. He was as prototypical of a drop-back quarterback. Warren Moon wasn't mobile. He was mobile, Skip, but he was prototypical. Drop back. Every quarterback, basically all the white quarterbacks in the NFL, they were drop back. That's what Warren Moon was. And it's like, nah, even though he won Rose Bowl MVP, Nah, that's still not good enough. So he had to go somewhere else just to prove that he could do it. And that's what these guys have to do. There were questions about Cam. There's always, RG3, there's always going to be questions that we don't seem to broach when it comes to the right quarterback. So, Skip, I don't think, maybe it's subconsciously. They don't know that they're doing it. But when you do that and you don't raise these same questions about the counterpart, the blacks look at it like, hold on. So this guy got nothing. So Trevor Lawrence is flawless. Mac Jones is flawless. Zach Wilson is flawless because we've heard nothing but exemplary things about them.
No, well, that's not true. Zach Wilson, Mark Sanchez went off on him and said he's Brett Favre-ish for the better and the worse. Like he'll just fling it.
Nothing about work ethic.
No.
I don't care what you say, but that's that position.
That came from one ESPN commentator who then backtracked and apologized and said he was taken out of context. Just for the record, because Ryan Day, the Ohio State coach, jumped right in on that and said, work ethic, he has as good a work ethic as any quarterback I've ever coached or been around.
We've all seen, I've actually been into a court proceeding, and we've seen enough of them on television. When someone says something and one of the attorneys says, I object, and the judge says sustain, how do you make the jury unhear what they heard? So how do you make the people unhear what was said about Justin Fields? How do you make them unhear that?
The proof is going to be in the pudding of how high he goes, because somebody may be just sitting right on Justin Fields. Maybe the Jets are, for all we know, at number 2.
We already knew the likelihood of Justin Fields getting outside of the top 10, no matter what was going to be said. It's just the fact that it was said. That's the problem that I have. If you want to be fair in your critique, be fair in your critique. But just don't willy-nilly and just say, well, I made some more phone calls. No, Skip, you cut 10 times. You measure 10 times and cut once. You don't cut 10 times because you measured once. What he did, the follow-up, and then the follow-up, and the follow-up, that's what he should have done first. That's why I'm skipping news stories. You vet, you vet, you vet. Because once you put that out there, Skip, even though you do a retraction, it's hard to get back the damage that's been done by what you said initially. Justin Fields, and that's another thing. Well, if he's athletic, he's just going to rely on his athletic system. But see, that's what we get. He's athletic. Oh, hard worker. When do you ever hear him describe a black guy as hard working? Aaron Donald is so talented. He's immensely talented. J.J. Watt's a hard worker. You see what they did there, Skip? It's almost like if you're talented, you can't be a hard worker. That's reserved for someone that's a little less talented. So Tom Brady is a hard worker. Tom Brady ain't talented. Tom Brady got no talent. He got by solely just because he worked hard. Really?
Well, I've called him the greatest overachiever in the history of quarterback play.
So he got no talent.
He's got a little bit, but even you discount his talent hugely.
No, I don't discount his talent, Skip. His talent is undeniable. But does he have all the physical tools of, say, an Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes? No. But to say the guy shouldn't have been in the league, no, that's not what I'm saying. Did he have, in basketball, if you were to equate, is he as talented at his position as, say, Michael Jordan or as LeBron? No. But that's not to deny. Larry Bird wasn't as talented. Was Larry Bird talented? No, he couldn't jump like Jordan.
Larry Bird was gifted. He had a shot nobody could block because he shot it clear back over behind his head at 6 feet 9 inches tall.
Yes.
And his stroke was as pure a stroke as you've ever seen in this league. And his ability to distribute the basketball was supreme. It's in the top 10 passing gifts that we've seen in the history of this league.
So when they described Deshaun Watson, how many times did you hear hardworking and how many times did you hear talented? When they describe Patrick Mahomes, how many times do you hear hardworking and how many times do you hear talented? Now, when they describe Drew Brees, how do they describe him? Do they describe him as hardworking or do they describe him as talented?
Okay, but that's because they weren't talented. They weren't as talented. Drew Brees was a complete overachiever. He just didn't have a lot of gift, man. He didn't have a lot of arm.
Just because you're not doesn't mean you're not.
I told you I went to watch Drew Brees in college at Northwestern, and I came away just shaking my head like, I don't see it.
Well, Skip, I don't get it. I saw him up close and personal for 2 years.
Okay.
And I was like,
okay. All right. To your biggest picture point, is there racial stereotyping that goes on before these drafts? Absolutely. Yeah. You know it, and I know it, and really everybody knows it.
It's the same thing with wide receivers. Wide receivers, Skip.
That's true. The other way around.
Yeah, it is.
I get that. But I have been at the forefront of this because I was blessed enough to be right in the middle of the Doug Williams stories. I've told you many times, I spent a week with him at Grambling State University back in, 1977, in his senior year under the great coach Eddie Robinson. And I got to know him, and I've told you the story several times. I called several general managers to get the consensus because there wasn't much buzz about him yet. And I thought he'd be the first overall pick because he looked like it to me.
Yeah.
What was he, 6'5", 230?
Another prototypical drop back.
Pure drop back.
Rock a cannon, 80 yards.
A cannon, and not that mobile. That wasn't his game. He was just as pure and true an NFL drop back passer as you've ever seen come down the pipe. So I called one prominent GM, whose name I will not divulge, and he said, we don't think that Doug Williams has the mental capabilities to play in our league. Okay, well, that was 1977.
Right.
He went 17th in the first round to Tampa, and the rest is history. First black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Okay, so it took a while, but speaking of Warren Moon, I covered him in college at the University of Washington. I went up to Seattle to do games and to do a big piece on him. So I saw him. He went to Hamilton High School right here on the west side of Los Angeles, and he was spectacular.
Right.
And he was pure drop back, as you say. He could move a little bit, but he was mostly just a dart thrower.
He was.
Okay, and that's another one where you say, what are you thinking?
Right.
Well, he had to go prove himself in Canada, but then he came back and he said, watch this.
Yes.
And as a Houston Oiler, he just lit this league up. Okay, so we get that. So now we finally came to the 2000s. Well, really late 90s is when it started. And just for the record, just so everybody gets this, 5 black quarterbacks have gone first overall in this league. And just for those who've forgotten, Michael Vick went first, 2001. Jamarcus Russell, who I did not like before that draft, went first in 07. Didn't work. Cam Newton went first in 11. I thought RG3 should have gone over Luck. That was just me, but I was just pounding the desk over that one. And he was the offensive rookie of the year over Andrew Luck in his first year, but he went second, as you know, to Mike Shanahan.
Correct.
Although I don't think it was Mike's call, but it went to Mike and Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
And they did wonders with him in his rookie year, obviously. Then we had Jameis go first in 2015, and obviously my man Kyler Murray went first in 2019.
Right.
Okay, so 5. We've had 10 go in the top 3, and we've had 13 go in the top 10 overall in draft history. Not terrible, not great, but not bad either.
Right.
So it's not like the league has shunned black quarterbacks up high. Again, there have been a lot of quarterbacks who they just said, that's it, we got to go.
There was a time that they weren't given the opportunities like they're given now. You had to switch. If you played quarterback, you weren't playing that position, you switched position.
But really, since about 1990, you got a shot.
Yes.
And if you got the goods, this league, in the end, it just wants to win championships.
Correct.
So if they think you can win them a championship, no matter your color, they will go.
Yes.
So back to Richard Sherman. So he says that, first of all, he says Justin Fields literally the most efficient. And then he sort of backed off, if not one of the most efficient. Well, his stats were second to Mac Jones because Mac Jones was just off the charts. I mean, you just can't even fight that.
He had some of the best stats since they've been keeping data like this.
A 96 overall QBR for the year, and Justin Fields was right behind him, but not that close. He was 92. Not bad. So he did complete 70% of his passes. But I'm going to remind everybody, Dwayne Haskins also completed 70% of his passes. I sat right here and said, I don't love him. I don't see the command, the feel, the deadly accuracy. And once again, you have to be careful. Track team of receivers, and he had them. Dwayne did. And Justin's had a few good ones. And just for the record, you have had some doubts about Justin Fields, not in processing or work ethic, but you've had your doubts about Justin Fields.
My thing was, am I going to see the Justin Fields that I saw the first year, or am I going to see more of what I saw this past season? Because, I mean, the talent is there. Like you said, you see a guy, he can run like that, he has touch, high completion percentage. He does it all, but the consistency is the thing that concerned me. The thing that concerned me about Mac Jones, Skip, he's never been behind in the second half of a ball game. He only has 14, 15 starts. So you're like, wow, nobody thought Mac Jones would be even thought of as a first-round pick, but it was the same thing with Joe Burrow. Skip, at the start of the season, nobody had Joe Burrow in the top 50 players, let alone going number 1 overall.
Nope.
But he had Jamar Chase, he had Justin Jefferson, he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he had the best offensive line in football, and guess what happened, Skip? Boom. So my problem is that they use that. What? Look at all those receivers that he had. Look what Joe Burrow had. He got Justin Jefferson was offensive rookie of the year, and Jamar Chase might be the first receiver taken again this year.
Well, might be and deserve it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So my issues with Justin Fields were just 2 games. I watched a whole bunch of his games, but against Indiana, it became a shootout, and it should not have been a shootout.
Right.
And he threw 3 interceptions in that game, and it disturbed me. So I sat back and said, man, I don't know.
Right.
Then Big Ten championship game, Northwestern, an inferior opponent, a sort of hopeless underdog.
Right.
And it just stayed close deep into the fourth quarter because he had a long, hard game in that game and went 12 of 27 for 114 yards.
Right.
No touchdowns, 2 picks, had a QBR of 33 on scale 0 to 100.
Right.
That was a bad game.
Yeah, it was.
In a big game.
Yeah.
Bad game in a big game. What he did to Clemson, it was just off the charts spectacular. So you say, okay, which is which? Will there be some inconsistency in his game? Well, that's a little scary. Okay, so that's my issue there. Would I be shocked? Seriously, given how you can just throw 4 other quarterbacks in a hat and sort of pick one out? Would I be shocked if Justin Fields went second to the Jets? I would not be shocked at all because he has that much ability.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I see it. You can just put the tape on and watch it. He's a big kid who can. He ran, what was it, 4.44? Yeah. Okay, so he can run. He doesn't choose to run. He's more of a pocket passer, but he can hurt you with his legs. Well, speaking of black quarterbacks, there's another kid at North Dakota State who's starting to enter into the Derby here, and he is the wild card in this, named Trey Lance. And we're going to do a whole topic on him a little bit later because there are reports that Washington is hot to trot and might move up to try to get him. Well, I don't know. Mel Kiper calls him as intriguing a prospect as he's ever tried to figure out ahead of a draft. Well, it's because he had one big year starting in 2019, and he threw 28 touchdowns. No, they just played one game.
He played one game.
Against Central Arkansas because of COVID, obviously. So he just had one game sample size in his final year at North Dakota State, which is in, obviously, FCS. But in that 1 year in 2019 where he played all the games, they won every game and won the national championship, and he didn't throw 1 interception the whole year, 28-0. And he ran for 1,100 yards. 1,100 yards? And you want to talk about a runner? Even this morning, I was just watching some of the video of him, just YouTube him, because I didn't watch a game he played. But I watched the YouTube video. He's almost 6'4". He measured 6'3" and 7/8", and he goes 224 pounds. He was just running over people.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, he's got a little bit of Cam Newton going, but he's got a bigger burst than Cam.
I knew nothing about him, Skip, until I watched him play in the FCS National Championship game. And I'm like, damn.
Okay. Well, I'm not hearing any of these negativities about him, these racial stereotyping yet. I don't know. Maybe we haven't gotten close enough. Maybe we will. But I'm just saying, there are 2 black quarterbacks in the Derby here, and I am not going to be surprised if they don't go high. Like bang, bang.
We might have a run. You might have a run where the first 4 picks are quarterback because it says like Atlanta is looking to trade out, could possibly be looking to trade out of that 4th spot. Does somebody come up and we got 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks? Now I don't see the quarterbacks going past 5. So if they go 1 through 4, that 5th quarterback's coming off the board before you get out. Probably no later than 12.
Okay. And my prisoner of the moment was Zach Wilson because, like you, I watched Coastal Carolina, the game they got thrown into because of COVID, and they had to go play on a neutral site in South Carolina, and he stunk it up. And they stunk it up.
Skip, I watched a little bit of his game. I thought he was good, but I didn't say he's better than Fields. I never thought he was better than Trevor Lawrence. And I definitely didn't think he was Mac Jones because obviously Alabama is on every single week and you get an opportunity to watch. I was like, he's not better than Mac Jones. Now, granted, he doesn't have the level of talented players around him like Mac Jones, but I'm like, you look at the way Mac Jones throws the ball and the accuracy. That's what got him screaming up the charts. He's pinpoint accurate.
Okay. So I will not be surprised if Justin Fields goes second to the Jets. It wouldn't shock me at all because there's smoke screens everywhere. And sometimes people put out misinformation.
On purpose.
Just to lead people astray. Like, oh, yeah, he can't process fast enough. And they lay off and he goes second. Or he goes third. I'm not going to be surprised, like you mentioned Atlanta. if in fact it goes Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, as a lot of people think it will, Mac Jones to the Shanahans in San Francisco, well, can Atlanta afford, if Trey Lance is that dude, and he just may be, can you afford to let him go?
And Skip, you only have Matt Ryan on the contract for 1 more year.
And is that all you want of Matt Ryan? Like, are you about to be finished with Matt Ryan? Are you about to say he's run his course?
Right.
Maybe.
Because Mr. Blank said that he was going to have no bearing if the coach, new coach and general manager wanted to move on from Matt Ryan, he was going to be okay with that. Obviously, they did not want to move on from Matt Ryan. But are they in the derby for a quarterback? Matt Ryan gets 1 more year, and then he turns it over. I mean, maybe it's a situation like Alex Smith and Pat Mahomes. 1 year, and then you turn it over to the rookie, turn it over to the rook.
Okay. So my last quick comment on Richard Sherman, who obviously played for the 49ers. He's comparing Justin Fields' efficiency to Jimmy G's. And I'm like, efficiency? This is just me. Like, yes, he can be wildly efficient and wildly inefficient.
Right.
And I will not ever forget the fact that in the fourth quarter against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Jimmy G went 4 of 11 for 36 yards with a big interception and a big overthrow miss of Emmanuel Sanders at the goal line. I don't know.
I think the critique of Justin Fields, Skip, is that when we look at it, we know he can be way up here.
I agree.
But you can't be way down here.
You cannot.
You got to stay somewhere here. It's like his highs is so high, but his low is so low, and that's what you have to guard against. That's what's concerning, I believe, is that, like you said, you saw what he did at Clemson, but I also saw Northwestern, and I also saw Indiana.
You did.
So
I agree.
that's the parallel. Like, well, damn, where is he? Because if we can get him somewhere in between those, we know we got a potential of having a great player on our hands. And so that's what I believe that what they're looking for. But that's always, and Skip, I don't think sometimes when they say these things, I don't know if they really know how it comes across when they're saying them.
I agree. No, I'm with you. But this is shaping up because of those X factors and racial bias as fascinating a quarterback draft as we have ever seen, because it is way up in the air after Trevor Lawrence. And we both have some questions about Trevor Lawrence. He wasn't any angel of a quarterback, you know, like, not off the field. I'm talking about his performances weren't always perfect.
Skip, I think his best year was his first year. His first year. We saw now when he went up against LSU in the national championship game.
Lord have mercy.
Now, he threw for a bunch of yards, but he made some mistakes in that game.
He made some big mistakes.
And we saw him against Ohio State in the rematch game.
I agree.
So you're absolutely right. Now, he's not without his flaws. But I just think the thing is, Skip, basically since he came onto the scene, I've heard nothing but when he comes out, he's going to be the first pick. Had he come out his freshman year, Skip said, like, he shouldn't play anymore because he can only decrease his value. He can't increase it. He's going to be the first pick. So he was like already anointed, and especially after winning the championship, a true freshman wins the national championship. And then who he beat in order to do that, he just beat anybody, Skip.
Nope.
That's St. Nick.
He beat St. Nick.
And so you get a little extra credit when you beat St. Nick.
Yeah. It is going to be fascinating.
So you think there's a chance that Justin Fields goes to the Jets? Absolutely,
I do.
I think it's etched in stone that it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson.
Okay. And then Mac Jones, or you're not sure? Richard's trying to talk to Shannon.
I think that's what Sherman's trying to do, trying to talk a bit to it.
All right.
Well,
here we go.
It makes a lot of sense to me. And, you know, that story and that report about his work ethic always did really rattle me when it came out last week about Justin Fields. I went back to my notes, and he and Ryan Day were studying daily over Zoom, watching film. I mean, Ryan Day couldn't say enough about his work ethic and his teammates. So I think it's important to point that out. And it's going to be a very interesting 3 weeks how this all plays out. Will we see 1, 2, 3, 4 all as quarterbacks in the draft? That is really interesting.
Might be the first time.
Keep an eye on. First time ever, guys. No mercy. Kevin Durant returned last night after missing the past 23 games and could not have been more efficient. Coming off the bench, KD scored 17 points and 5-5 shooting from the floor. That included 2 threes and a perfect 5 for 5 from the free throw line. in 19 total minutes. Durant also added 7 rebounds and 5 assists in the Nets' 139-111 blowout of the Pelicans. And after the game, KD said he was ready to, quote, dive right into the action. Shannon, how impressive was KD's performance and return?
Yeah, he's very impressive. I mean, I expected nothing less of Kevin Durant, Skip. I mean, he's an all-time great player. Ultra efficient. He can do it all. He's a 3-level player. Shoot the 3, mid-range, get to the basket. You foul him, put him on the free throw line. He's going to make 90%. He's a transcendent player. So I'm not surprised by this. During the pandemic, Skip, I didn't see any Beyonce concerts. Do you believe she can still sing? I do. I didn't see John Legend play the piano during the pandemic. Do you believe he can still play? I do.
I know, but it's much easier just to sit down at the piano and play than it is to take what he missed 23 games and suddenly say, bam,
no,
I got this.
The man been playing, because guess what? Guess why they can do that? Because they all have been doing something for it. Picasso took 6 weeks off. He could still play? Do you believe he could still play? Michelangelo.
No, but it's a difference.
That's what he is, Skip.
It requires some conditioning.
Skip.
Okay, and if you have a torn hamstring, you can't condition the way...
They did a great job of letting him come off the bench, feel his way into the game. It doesn't change. He didn't shrink. Now, all of a sudden, he didn't go from 7 foot to 6'5". His shot didn't come like Michael Kidd-Grilkes. So what changed in Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant is great. I expected Kevin Durant to be great. The only thing, he did have 6 turnovers. That's the only negative. But offensively, Kevin Durant got no hole, no weakness in his game. He can do it all. He always has been.
So you thought he'd just trot right back out on the court and go 5 of 5?
No, I didn't think it'd go perfect, Skip. But did I think that I didn't really know how many minutes they were going to give him? Were they going to give him 10 minutes? You know, he ended up playing, 19 minutes. So I don't know if I thought he would go that far. I thought he might go 10 to 12, maybe even 15.
I would agree.
So I didn't know. Did I expect him to go perfect? 5 of 5 from the field and perfect from the 3-point line and perfect from the free throw line? No, I didn't expect that, Skip. But I expected Kevin Durant to look like Kevin Durant. Remember the first game back? And Skip, after all that layoff that he had, missed the whole season and the pandemic, and he didn't go down to the bubble. And first game back, after over a year, he looked like Kevin Durant. So I expected him to look like KD with 6 weeks, 7 weeks off. So he is what he is. We know what Kevin Durant is. I have no questions about Kevin Durant. None when it comes to basketball.
Neither do I, which is why I would like to welcome back the best player on the planet.
We were having a good conversation. You was going back.
Well, you set me right up for that. Thank you very much. Kevin Durant immediately left rust in the dust.
Yeah.
And yet he did it in a way only Nets do it. He did it in a way I didn't see coming. It was game time, and I just thought, well, if he's back, he'll start.
I thought,
and he might stay for 3 minutes and then take a rest, and then he might come back for another couple of 3 minutes, like you said, and it might total 12.
Yes.
That's what I thought for the night. No big deal. Just get your feet wet.
Right.
And instead, the game starts, and he's not to be found.
Right.
He's not on the bench. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then it's reported that he's somewhere back in the locker room somewhere warming up in his own way, whatever, stretching, or I don't know.
Probably got on the bike a little bit.
He probably did. Maybe ran some little mini wind sprints or something, just to make sure everything was opened up and that his hamstring was completely open.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he comes in, and the first thing I know, if we could see the first shot he made, he comes off a down screen on along the baseline and just pops out to the elbow. If we can see it here, Kyrie just hits him coming right off the screen. And it's an elbow jumper, and he just nails it like
that's a shot.
Like he hadn't left. You know, like he's been doing this every night. And he just missed 23 games. And I'm thinking, this team has such... It's got like an arrogant sort of confidence about it, like in a supreme good way. They're just supremely confident, like, I got this.
Skip,
I haven't missed anything here.
How many scores you think in the NBA better than the 3 that they have on that roster?
Nobody, because the truth is, I don't believe any team in the history of this league has ever had 3 offensive talents like those together.
They have not. Because,
by the way, Kyrie is playing at his highest level of his career, as we saw last night.
Right.
The dunk, the explosive dunk. He's not a dunker.
No.
And I think he's
feeling
sort
real
of
good.
showing off.
Real good
like watch this. He's 6'2", and he goes up and he hangs on the rim and is pointing to his either family or friends over on the side.
You see that?
He did have some fans in. Did you see this? God, what are you doing? He's happy to have.
That ain't Kyrie. That's Uncle Drew there. That's Uncle Drew.
Like, what? I'm happy to have my guy back. Right. Watch this, Kevin.
Right.
You got yours, I got mine. So that now they're just like feeding off each other.
Right.
And obviously James now has some hamstring issue of his own.
Right.
I don't think it's as serious as Kevin's.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he'll come back. And by the way, when he left, he was playing at his highest offensive level we've ever seen him play at.
Right.
And then ESPN had a stat last night, which I double-checked just to let this sink in. No team in the history of this league has had 6 players on its roster who have made multiple all-NBA teams. Not all-star teams. I'm talking about all-NBA teams. This team has 6 more than any.
Yeah.
It's got Kevin with 9 and 6 first teams. James Harden with 7 with 6 first teams. Kyrie with 2, no first. These guys don't have first, but Kyrie has 2. Blake has 5. LaMarcus Aldridge has 5. And DeAndre Jordan made 3 first teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, 3 all-NBA teams and 1 first team.
Right.
But that's the collection and depth of that talent is absurd.
Skip, you might, if you think about it, because, Clyde Drexler was an all-NBA player, and so was Barkley, so was Olajuwon. But these guys are on the team. They're really in their prime. Ain't nobody over the hill.
The top 3.
Yeah, the top 3 in their absolute prime.
Yes.
Kyrie's still in his 20s.
And by the way, DeAndre Jordan takes a lot of flack as kind of the fourth wheel or whatever.
Right.
But he made first team All-NBA in 2016. It's not that far back.
No. Right.
When he led the league in field goal percentage.
Right.
Okay, well, he's still got some game.
Right. Yes.
And I think he's still got some defensive game.
Well, I think the thing is, Skip, is that they like Claxton really well.
They do.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
The more I watch him, the better he gets, man.
And LaMarcus Aldridge can just do things that DeAndre Jordan can't.
Agreed.
He's live. He got 3-point range. You can pick and roll him. You can pick and pop him.
And trust me, because I've watched him so much as a Spur, he can protect the rim.
Yes.
He has a long 6'11".
Right. And so the thing is, when you get DeAndre Jordan, Skip, basically all you're getting is pick and roll, lob to the rim. But you see LaMarcus, Skip, he can step back. He can hit that 15-footer. He got 3-point range. He can pick and roll also. He ain't going to really catch no lob, but, hey, he'll pick it, lay it up in there, dunk it occasionally.
So the only team that's going to stop the Nets, to me, as I've told you before, is the Nets.
Right.
Because they got some weird dudes on this team. They got some... I don't know what they're... Like Kevin says after the game, it was pretty cool coming off the bench. I'm thinking... It was? You like that? Are you going to now advocate for, I think I should be Manu Ginobili?
Yeah, I think Steve asked you to put his foot down and said, nah, bro, you ain't coming off no bench. You about to be no 6 man.
As you've pointed out many times, Kyrie was saying, we don't really need a coach. Well, I think that's their mentality, but I think Steve Nash is kind of hanging in there doing a pretty good job with this group, right? So the point is...
Yes, just call a timeout. If another team go on a run, just call a timeout. That's all you got to do. Hey, guys, I'm just giving y'all a break. Y'all will figure it out.
But they do seem to share the ball pretty well.
They do, yes.
It looked good last night. The ball movement looked good. And Kevin said after the game, all you have to do is move yourself and move the ball.
Right.
And it works.
Right.
Well, they seem to get that.
Right.
And I don't see a lot of solo ball, ISO ball.
No, they don't. I mean, Skip, they got guys that can shoot. I mean, look, the big three can all shoot the 3. Then you got Joe Harris, who's a marksman. You got Shannon, who's a marksman. You got TLC, who can shoot the 3.
And we both love Jeff Green because he's just a basketball player.
That's all he does, Skip.
And he looks great. He doesn't look his age.
The poor Jeff ought to ask for a raise because it don't matter. They put him on Zion.
They do.
They'll put him on Anthony Davis. They'll put him on Giannis. Skip, they give him the toughest assignment night in and night out. And he plays hard on the defensive end. He'll hit big threes. He rebounds. I've liked him ever since I saw him when he played with LeBron in Cleveland. He's just a basketball player.
So now there's a countdown to the playoffs, and their only issue is going to be the big 3 just haven't played nearly enough games together. So when does James come back, and how quickly can they reach chemistry where it starts to really click? Well, maybe they don't need chemistry.
James Harden ain't coming back before the end of April. They're talking about 10 days.
They tried the other day.
Exactly.
And he lasted 4 minutes.
I'm not chancing that. James Harden, I'll see you the 1st of May.
Okay, but then he and Kyrie and Kevin just haven't played enough games.
That's what
together.
Don't worry about it, Skip. I ain't worried about that.
Right.
I worry about that. The only thing I believe that can derail them is health. That's it. Because, Skip, they have 3 guys that on a given night, 2 of the 3 can go get 40. If all 3 need to, all 3 can go get you 25 plus. Who else can do that?
Well, can't all 3 get 50 if they want? No, seriously.
No, they can. I don't know if they get that in the game, but yes, we've seen all these guys. We know what Kevin Durant. We've seen James Harden. We know James Harden. James Harden can get 60. And you look up just like, he had 60. KD gets 40, and you're like, man, that dude only took 18 shots and got 40 points. And then Kyrie is there. You forget because Kyrie is so artistic that you forget, like, Kyrie had 41 the other night.
Yep.
And you're like, hold on. All I saw was those acrobatic layups. He had 40 points. Yes, he had 40 points and was dancing in the process.
He was dancing.
And so, yes, I'm not worried about that, Skip. I'm not, because come playoff, and I get it, come playoff times, teams get to focus in 7 games. We just worried about you. We don't have to leave here and go play Philly. We don't have to leave here and go play Boston, anybody else. We just got to focus on you. But because these guys, all of them, are so great one-on-one, you got to double. If one of these guys get hot, you better come doubling. Because if you don't, he's going for 50.
I agree.
If one of these guys get 50, you can't beat him.
So my final comment on this is on fitness level. We both questioned James looking like he got heavy, and maybe he ate his way out of Houston.
Right.
But it never seems to bother him. He can have a little pot belly, and it doesn't bother him.
James might have a bodysuit on, Skip. He might have had a fat suit. He might have been active.
Well, seriously, he's a baller.
Yeah.
And he's played, he had until he went out. He'd played the most minutes in the league.
Yes.
And then we come to Kevin last night. He looks thinner than he ever has. Well, so he took 23 games off. I don't know what his nutrition level. I think it's pretty good.
Right.
But he gets skinnier by the day. So he doesn't have any issue of, I'm going to put on a couple when I'm taking games off, right?
Skip, that joke, I mean, he's so thin as it is. Skip, that's like a giraffe growing 2 inches. Hell, he already 20 feet tall. How the hell you know he grew 2 inches? Kevin Durant already weighed 175 and 7 foot. I can't tell if he lost 5 or gained 20.
Which brings me to Kyrie. He's taken a few games off here and there, some personal issues.
Kyrie definitely looks in shape. Kyrie is thin.
He looks the greatest. He looks weight room fit, man.
He look good.
He's got a man body.
Yeah.
He can power people to the rack.
Look, Kyrie's special. I mean, that's why LeBron always said this, man. Y'all don't realize how good Kai is.
Yeah.
Y'all don't realize how good he is. No. He's special.
Okay. So now can Steve Nash sort of keep it all?
That's his toughest job.
Yep.
Keep it all the egos in check.
I know.
And let all that stuff. We don't need no coach. I ain't even listen to that. I don't even hear that. Because a lot of times, like, hold on, bro. Kyrie, keep that down, bro.
Well, you don't have anything to be concerned about because you won't get past the Clippers to start with. So,
without big three?
Is that what it is?
Shaquille Drummond? Well, when Shaquille Drummond get healthy, it's over.
No, he's Kareem Abdul-Drummond. I'm sorry. That's who he is.
Skip, Skip, that's all right. His word floating out there, LeBron could be ready by the end of the month.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'll take it. You would know.
Rebate season, tax season, rebate season. I'm sending that money in. I'm sitting by the mailbox. As soon as I put the check in the mail, April 15th, I'm standing by the mailbox waiting on the return to come back, Jenny.
Wow.
Waiting for Godot. That's what you're waiting for.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to talk about Skip's team. He's been waiting for the Cowboys to be back at it. And here's the situation. The Cowboys may have accidentally revealed who they have their sights on in the upcoming draft. Jerry Jones is reportedly, quote, infatuated with Kyle Pitts. The only problem is Dallas selects 10th, and the Florida tight end is projected to go as high as 5 in some mock drafts. Some talent evaluators have Pitts as their second best overall player behind Trevor Lawrence. So, Shannon, should Jerry take Kyle Pitts if he falls to number 10?
Skip, you took CeeDee Lamb because he fell in your lap. You have enough offense. I know what Jerry's thinking, Skip. And Jerry thinks that he won all these Super Bowls because the most recognizable faces were on the offensive side of the football, the triplets. He had Emmett, he had Troy, he had Michael Irvin. But let me tell you who Jerry's D linemen were. They were Leon Lett, Charles Haley, Tony Tolbert, Russell Maryland, Jim Jeffcoat, and Jimmy Jones.
I know. I covered the team.
And you remember what they did to Jim Kelly out there in Pasadena? 59-17. 59-17.
They mostly did that to the Buffalo defense, but go ahead.
Yeah. But, Skip, Jim didn't have a chance to throw the ball.
He was good in the first half. That was a close game at halftime, and then the floodgates.
And then they had James Washington, Darren Woodson, Robert Jones, and Godfrey Miles, all those guys at linebacker. Skip, they were loaded on the defensive side of football. They were, first of all, let me take that back. They were a loaded football team. But, Skip, the defense, Jerry, did you see what your defense did? You gave up 300 yards in a... Skip, this ain't Oklahoma. You know, teams are not supposed to run for 300 yards.
308 by Cleveland.
Yes, and Lamar led team had 294, and they started taking knees. Or they'd have been over 300.
Arizona had 200 plus. Washington had 200 plus.
Skip, don't you want to stop somebody? I get it, Jerry. So my question to Jerry, do you really want to win the Super Bowl, or do you want to say, I got the greatest show on turf? Because that's what it looks like you want to say.
I agree.
Because if you just think you're going to outscore people and win a championship, it's not going to happen, Skip.
Yeah.
Because if you look at all the teams, look at the highest scoring offenses in NFL history and find out how many won a Super Bowl. Let's go back to the Patriots, the 2007 Patriots. Let's go look at the 2013 Broncos. Let's go look at the 83 Washington football team. High scoring, 550-plus points, 600 points.
Go back and look at Dan Fouts' San Diego Chargers, Air Coryell.
Skip, you got to stop people.
Yep.
Do I believe if Kyle Pitts falls to him at 10, he'll take him? Absolutely, I do. But I believe he would be better served getting a corner. Take Michael Parsons if he's there, the Penn State outstanding linebacker. That's what I would do, Skip. But I think Jerry would box office, score 40. Skip, what good is 40 if you lose?
Well, if Atlanta scores 39, you're good, right?
Exactly.
That's what happened.
Exactly.
Thanks to the miraculous onside kick, the watermelon kick.
Yes.
Okay. For the record, I told you a good 2 months ago, sitting right here, that Kyle Pitts will be better at his position than any of the quarterbacks will be at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
That's how highly I regard him. And yet, he's not a quarterback, so you have to factor that in for how high he's going to go.
Right.
But I told you 2 months ago, if he did fall to Dallas, I'm like, don't even hesitate. You have to take him because he's a transcendent player, and you have agreed he is that guy.
Yes.
And I don't even know if he's a tight end. He's some hybrid.
Right.
He's Megatron.
Yes.
And at his pro day, his wingspan measured longer than Megatron's. His hands are bigger than Megatron's. And he ran 4.44 at 6'5", 245. And his football speed, to my eye test, looks faster than he times in the 40 because he just runs by everybody.
Yes.
Alabama could not contend with him.
No.
They sick two players on him. They could not guard him.
Right.
He's unguardable. Great hands, soft hands. He's the next level of whatever that. You could split him out wide. You could put him in slot. You could have him line up in tight. You
He's
could
the
do
evolution
anything.
with a tight end going. What you see what they do with Kelsey, what they do with Darren Waller.
Yes.
He reminds you of those guys.
He does.
He's not as cumbersome as Gronk. Gronk is probably more more bumper cars running to you. This guy's fluid. Shifty hips, can drop his hips, get in and out of breaks. Yeah, he's the real deal, Skip.
Okay. So if he did fall all the way to 10, this is just me. I told you then, you have to take him. Now, you can argue, hurry, step right up, the greatest carnival barker in the history of football. Jerry Jones will say, come on, come all to see my Cowboys. Tune in to see my Dallas Cowboys because we are the greatest show on any kind of grass or turf.
Jerry Wayne Barnum.
That's what he is. He's that guy. And you're right. He would sell that, but he's so good, you'd have to take him. Well, here's why I don't have to worry about this. He ain't falling to no 10th in the draft. I'm sorry, he's just not. He's too good. So Jerry, according to the report, the ESPN report, I think it was Chris Mortensen, said that he has had some talk or thought or game planning about trading up for Kyle Pitts. Now I'm out because you would have to pay a quarterback's ransom to go up to a quarterback slot to get Kyle Pitts. Well, he doesn't play quarterback.
Right.
So I have an issue with that.
You're giving up 2022 and 23 first rounders for that.
Because he's going to go up in there. They're 10th, obviously.
Right.
Well, he'll go in there. I don't know where, but I wouldn't be shocked. I kept telling you, if the Jets are going to keep Sam Darnold, they have to take Kyle Pitts at 2, but they said no.
Right.
So they're going to take a quarterback. So the quarterbacks are going to go, And then starting with the Bengals, you say you need to take that Penei Sewell from Oregon, the best offensive lineman. Well, can you not take Kyle? You can't not.
Right.
You have to take Kyle Pitts. So he's going to go before 10. So for Jerry, if he tries to pull off some quarterback-like deal where you have to pay part of Fort Knox of what's left of your draft picks to go up to 5 or 6.
But how many times, Skip? That's not something Jerry normally does.
He does not do that. No. I mean, he would have done it for a quarterback. If they had not been able to sign Dak, I think he might have tried this.
Skip, but you look at the Super Bowl in the 90s, they had top 5 defense. They ranked 5th, 2nd, and 3rd in scoring defenses in those 3 Super Bowl winning years. Now, where did their defense rank last year in scoring? You ain't winning. It's hard to win a Super Bowl, Skip, when your defense is ranked in the 20s. It's hard. It's hard. It's virtually impossible.
Okay, so I have already penciled in from the start Patrick Surtain.
Right.
That is the wisest buy. It makes all the sense in the world, which often...
It's a need position, and you don't have to give up anything to get it.
You do not. And I think he's a young stud whose father played at a high level in the league. He is well taught. He's a bigger corner. He's got everything that I would want in bloodline and in durability and ball skills.
Right.
He's a leaper. He gets his hands on a lot of football.
Yeah, because, Skip, you look at Galladay, you look at Slayton. Those are big receivers for the Giants.
Yeah.
So you got to match up with that.
Okay, I got it. Now, some people think your Denver Broncos might snatch Patrick Surtain at 9. So I don't know which way they're going to go. They may have to go quarterback if one falls to them. But the point is, I didn't watch Caleb Farley enough, the Virginia Tech corner, but he's highly regarded. Some people like him more than Surtain. But you would have to go corner at that point.
The cornerback from South Carolina,
JC,
Horn. Skip, he's bigger.
He's Joe Horn's son, right? Yeah.
He's bigger, he timed better, and he has a bigger wingspan than all these guys.
Okay, I just like when your father plays. I just like it because
you look at Antoine Winfield Jr.
You just translate. It mattered to me that your big brother played. It just mattered
because Skip. You're out there and the father he's working with his son. Because normally what you're going to see if a father played and they work with his son, you're going to see exquisite technique.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to see.
Okay, so I hark back to the 2016 draft. I'm over here beating the table for Joey Bosa. I was actually still at the other network, but the point was...
In 2016?
Yes, they shocked me. Jerry shocked me because he took Ezekiel Elliott because he was still sitting there at number 4, but Joey Bosa had just already gone to the Chargers.
I believe he would have took Bosa had Bosa been there.
Okay, but he already had Darren McFadden, who had just run for over 1,000 yards, which he wasn't great. He was a great college player, but he had 2,000-yard seasons to his credit at that point, and I thought, we're okay there. We're okay. So what do we need Ezekiel Elliott for? Because he was, for a while, transcendent. The first 3 years, he led the league in rushing. And he made Pro Bowls in 3 of his first 4 years. And he had the one 2017 where he got suspended.
I think Jerry was looking at it like, 1,000 yards is good, but behind this offensive line, you should get 1,500.
Okay.
Because everybody else, DeMarco Murray, Skip.
He had just 2014.
He got an 1,800 behind this offensive line. So that's an 800-yard gap. So Jerry's looking at it like, man, look at Ty Smith dominating, Zach Martin dominating, Travis Frederick dominating. Oh, no, we need more than 1,000. And we believe this kid, after what he had done at Ohio State the past 2 years, he can come in and give us 1,500. And right on cue, he gave you 1,600 and missed the final game of the season.
Okay. So that was called strengthening your strength because it wasn't, I put quotes around strength, but you just went up a whole couple of grades on that, on Ezekiel. So here's what I think Jerry has in his back pocket. In case that Kyle Pitts falls to 10, I believe that he's already been making potential side deals for Michael Gallup, who's in his final year of his rookie contract, and he's going to want to get paid. So I think even on draft night, they would have a deal ready where could they get a second for him? Maybe they could. He's pretty good. Could they get a third for him? But whatever, if you got Kyle Pitts, then you could move Michael Gallup.
Well, I'm standing by my phone.
Okay.
Somebody called me, hey, what y'all want? Who y'all want? Y'all want Kyle Pitts? Yeah, we like Kyle Pitts too. So what you want to give us to come up and get him? Okay. I would trade back.
Oh, you trade back for Kyle Pitts?
I would trade back, Skip.
And you might leave the greatest tight end in the history of football on the table, somebody who's going to change the way the game is played?
Skip, he can change the way the game is played, but if you can't stop nobody, well, then what?
You just outscore.
You can't outscore. You see
okay,
what
you just have to figure that part out. I don't know how you do
but let me
it.
ask you, but see what happened? When Tom Brady in 2007, when they couldn't outscore, Skip, all they had to do was get to 21. And they win. They got to 14. They lost.
I know, but they went up 14-10 with 2 minutes left, and Belichick's vaunted defense couldn't stop Eli Manning.
You mean to tell me with the greatest, that was the greatest offense that had ever been assembled? You could only get 14? You see what happened? If you had a defense, you could have stopped Eli. You had a top, yeah, we could have done.
Okay, but they didn't have a defense that could stop Eli.
That's what I'm saying. You ain't got a defense that can stop nobody.
Okay, but Tom Brady should have 8 Super Bowl rings.
Oh, my God. Skip,
well,
we're not going to. No, we're not going to do that.
Well, he did his part. He drove it 70 yards for a touchdown, hit Randy Moss with 2 minutes left, 14-10 Patriots.
He could have easily lost those.
Undefeated season.
All those 6 game-winning drives, they could have ended it. We didn't have a game-winning
How can you not stop Eli Manning?
That guy won't lie.
He went 75 yards for a touchdown.
That's what Eli do.
Of course, what he did was he put one hand over his eyes, threw it as far as he could, and it's stuck in a face mask of David
I'm just trying to
Tyree.
figure out how can Tom Brady, he can be Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, and he can't beat Nick Foles and Eli Manning? And that's your GOAT.
All he did was throw for 505, the all-time playoff record against Nick Foles, and Belichick's defense gave up 41.
And now Nick Foles can't even get the job over Andy Dalton.
Yep.
That's the guy that beat your guy.
That's exactly why Bill Belichick is overrated.
See, there you go. See, I knew.
Well, it is.
No,
you just closed the case.
He ain't overrated.
He can't get a job, and he was the Super Bowl MVP thanks to Bill Belichick.
So was what you call him? You know who else was Super Bowl MVP? Joe Flacco.
Yep.
Joe Flacco beat Tom twice.
Well, he beat a lot of people.
Now, I don't know about a lot of people. I know about that one. But, Skip, at some point in time, you got to stop accumulating these great offensive guys to get some defense to stop somebody.
Okay, but sometimes extraordinary events call for extraordinary measures. You just say, if that guy falls, you just have to take it.
So, in other words, you're going to be the cook and the server. At some point in time, somebody got to serve. So, I just want to know who's going to serve, who's going to bring the dishes out, who's going to clear the tables. Because all you doing is getting chefs. You just want to get the people to be seen.
Well, fortunately, I think I don't have this problem to deal with because he ain't going to be there.
But you pray, you open, you're like, please be there. Please be there. Please.
Boy, it'd be must-see TV, I got to say.
It would. You're right. I don't know if he's going to be available at that point, guys.
No mercy.
Well, earlier this week, we heard one of Deshaun Watson's accusers speak publicly for the first time. And now, high-profile sponsors Nike and Beats by Dre have halted their deals with the quarterback. This morning, Mike Freeman, the race and inequality editor of USA Today, asked what it will take for the league to take action and possibly put him on the exempt list now that the sheer volume of lawsuits against Watson has reached 22. So, Shannon, what is your reaction to what Freeman wrote?
The NFL's in a very tough spot, Skip. They don't want to feel like they're overstepping their boundaries, although Article 46 gives Commissioner Goodell the complete authority. He doesn't need a charge. He doesn't need a conviction to intervene and take whatever actions he deems appropriate because of conduct detrimental, what he would deem conduct detrimental to the league. I just think the thing is they're in a this is an ultimate spot. And if you put him on the commissioner's exempt list, it's almost like, yeah, we believe he's guilty. Because everybody that's been on this list, Skip, what they had actually, we saw what Ray Rice, we saw the video. We saw what Adrian Peterson and his child was going on in Houston. Rusty Hardin also defended him in that case. Greg Hardy. I think those are the only 3 guys, Skip, I can recall off the top of my head that's been on I didn't even know anything about a commissioner's exempt list until they got placed on it.
And none in the offseason, all during season.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead.
Right. And so that's another thing.
Yep.
Basically what you would be saying, and I don't think they have this to worry about, Deshaun, you can't come around the Houston Texans. I'm not so sure Deshaun doesn't want to come around them, and I'm not so sure at this point they want him to come around them. So for me, Skip, I think just just to show the outside world we still have a pulse of this. We're going to place him on the commissioner's exempt list. We're going to gather as much information as we can, and we're going to proceed accordingly. Now, Skip, like I said, they don't need charges. They don't need a conviction because the players have given Commissioner Goodell the authority through Article 46 to take the necessary steps appropriate that he deems. Not what they think, man, that ain't right, man, that's some bull jive. I ain't even got charged. You don't need to. He says this is what, because when if I'm not mistaken, Skip, he suspended Ben Roethlisberger, and there were no charges.
No charges.
He said
6 games, no charges.
He said the look that this is for the league and the expectations that we have as a league and the fans have, you've underperformed. So I believe that is the next step. The volume of women, Skip, you know, one or two, even though one or two should be heard, but because of the sheer volume, I think it's too much. I think it's too many now for the NFL to pretend as if they don't hear it, they don't know it. They knew it if it was one or two. But I think what they should do now is just go ahead and place him on this list. It is the offseason. That means he's not going to be able to come around the team. He can have no contact with the team. It's not like they were in contact anyway, Skip. But I think this is the thing for the NFL to show, okay, we're taking these allegations serious. We're taking these women serious, and this is the steps that we've deemed that are appropriate at this time.
Okay. First, I will comment on Mr. Mike Freeman, who is the race and inequality editor for USA Today Sports. He's a prominent black voice in sports media.
Yes.
For whom I have respect. He wrote a scathing piece about the NFL's inactivity, and I agree with all the points he made because they are irrefutable.
Right.
Scathing but irrefutable. I don't agree with his conclusion. He concludes that the inaction makes it seem like the NFL doesn't care, like it's waiting for the whole thing to blow over. No, that's not happening.
No.
Reportedly, the NFL is going about interviewing all of the 22 women who filed suits, and I'm assuming the one woman who went straight to the police. There was the woman who spoke only to Sports Illustrated. I'm sure they are doing their due diligence because they have to.
Right.
They learned a painful lesson over the Rice, the way they handled that. And they're all over this. But it's a tricky situation right now because you have to try to get to the bottom of it before you take the action. And then the next thing is what action do you want them to take other than the exempt list, which has never been used in the offseason. We have both agreed for weeks now. Looks like you need to go ahead and put him on ice, so to speak. Put him on the exempt list and see how this thing continues to play out. But when we're talking about, you know, his initial question is how many women accusers does it take before you do act against Deshaun Watson? Well, I'm with you because he starts asking, well, is it 5? Well, we passed that. Is it 10? Whoops. 15, 20? We're past what? We're to 22. Get that. All of them, as he says, various but similar accusations of sexual misconduct. We get it. All on the record. We got that. Then he goes through and shoots down point by point the points that Deshaun defenders have made, I'm sure via the internet, whatever, Twitter, whichever, Instagram. And he starts off, Deshaun has a sterling reputation. And he says, Mike Freeman says, so did Bill Cosby. Well, that's scathing, but okay, we get it. And then next, hey, wait a minute. None of them have gone to the police. Well, one just went to the police. Next, the lawyer is a carnival barker. Well, we get that. He's run for public. He ran for mayor and ran for another political office. And Mike Freeman says that may be true. But if it's all fake, it's one of the greatest fakes in history. If all 22 plus, there are really 23 accusers now, well, I think we agree. That would be, if you could pull that off, that'd be the greatest fake in NFL history. And also Busby is doing all this at his own peril because he's risking his reputation. If it's all fraudulent, then obviously he would look pretty bad.
Yeah, and I don't know what type of reputation he has in Houston. So
I don't know. And then final thought was, well, all the women have been anonymous. Well, we just heard from a couple of them, one very publicly, as she read her statement. Okay, and then finally, there's the woman who's interviewed by Sports Illustrated. So if you believe that all Busby's clients are lying as part of a mass conspiracy, well, then this is the one who's not his client, right? So the woman who went independently to
Right.
Sports Illustrated is not Busby's client.
Right.
So you even have some validation from somebody who is not represented by this quote-unquote Carnival Barker.
Right.
Okay, we get all of the above.
Right.
As we keep saying, the mounting body of accusations, the magnitude, it's so severe that it pushes you to say, whew, man.
Right.
It feels like something happened here
Right.
that needs to be dealt with by the league. And now we get to, but how? How? What? How do you?
That's the thing, Skip. I mean, do you suspend him? I mean, I'm talking about just flat out suspend him. Is that what Mike Freeman is calling for? Is that what people want? Just to be flat out suspended? Suspend him?
Then for how long? Well, I'm sure they're weighing their options. Right. For how long?
Suspended, I guess you have to say suspended indefinitely.
Indefinitely. Suspended for a year? Well, obviously, could this play out in a real court of law? Yes, it could.
I believe it's headed there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could have court of criminal law plus the civil cases.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we get all that, and I appreciate what he wrote, but it's still a very tricky spot that the NFL is in right now, and I don't believe they're inactive. I believe they are quietly going about the business they need to be going about.
Yeah, Skip, they don't want to be running into another situation because everybody believed they jumped the gun on Deflategate. Everybody believed they jumped the gun on Zeke Elliott's situation. So they don't want to be in another situation because the players really don't trust the NFL when it comes to these situations anyway, because they don't believe you're qualified. You're in the entertainment business. You're not the law enforcement or the SVU, you know what I'm saying, Skip? That's not your level of expertise. Although you have people that, you brought Lisa Friel and you brought a lot of people on in this capacity, Skip. At the end of the day, the NFL is an entertainment business. And so that's what they do really, really well. That's why they was able to make these owners wealthy, even wealthier than what they were before, because they understand how to put a great product on. They do a great job, and the networks do a great job of partnering and businessing with them to put on a great show for the viewing audience. But like I said, I mean, you suspend them indefinitely, and then what? For some, that's still not going to be enough. I guess they want him, just ban before we even go to Trey, just ban it forever before we even go to court and hear all the facts. So
so final point, referring to the letter that Roger Goodell wrote to Ben Roethlisberger in 2010 before he suspended him as he suspended him for 6 games. I quote, the personal conduct policy, this is from Roger, the personal conduct policy makes it clear that I may impose discipline even where the conduct does not result in conviction of a crime. Okay, so he has broad powers. And at some point, trust me, he will step back and he will rule on this. Because
that's what happened, Skip, is that they were saying that when the NFL wasn't intervening, they said, well, there are no charges. And they said, well, you suspended such and such and you didn't have no evidence. So you're the NFL. You can do whatever you want to do. So then he started suspending people without charges. Like, well, he ain't got no charges. So Roger Goodell, he could never win. Because if you suspend someone in the court of, in the law enforcement, in the court of law says, nah, we don't see anything. They're like, well, hold on. How do you take precedent over that? And that's their job. That's not your job. So Roger Goodell, no matter what he does, there's going to be a segment of population that's going to be upset because they say you overstepped your boundaries. So he can't win, but that's why you make $50 million a year, Raj. That's why you can get paid the big bucks. So Jerry Jones and all the other owners don't have to worry about that. So all the blowback gets splattered on you. All that gets splattered on him. Everybody, Jerry Jones and Mr. Kraft, they counting 100 million, 200 million, 300. They count them checks.
Well, I would not want to be sitting in Roger's seat.
No. Not when it comes to this situation like this here, Skip. Just after I do the deal with the network. Hey, you see what I got, y'all? Do I get a bonus with this? I want to be sitting in those, not with this.
No mercy.
Well, yesterday, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office said that Tiger Woods' crash from February was due to excessive speeds. Tiger was driving between 84 and 87 miles per hour downhill in a 45-mile-per-hour zone, and his vehicle was going 75 when it hit a tree, according to Sheriff Alex Villanueva. So, Shannon, what do you make of this latest information here?
This is very, very concerning for me, Skip. First, he's lucky to be alive. Let's start with that. And I'm glad, because someone was watching over you, Tiger Woods, and I don't think you realize just how fortunate you are.
Hit a tree at 75?
I don't even want to get into the look of this because when I heard how fast he was going and no skid marks and the level he hit the tree, something popped into my head, but I won't even put that out there, Skip. I'm not going to even put that out there.
Okay.
I don't think the sheriff had any choice. FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. I think the people, they're going to hold his feet to the fire. He's going to have to release this information because this would have been unprecedented. Because if you
and by the way, you were scathing in your criticism of him.
Yes.
When was it? A couple of weeks ago?
A couple of weeks ago. We're not going to release it. Because under that premise, Skip, no defendant will allow you to release information. If I had a DUI, I'm not going to tell you something happened. No, I want you to release that information.
Yes.
You couldn't do that.
Because he said we needed him to sign
right.
off on
No, you don't.
No,
you don't. And then another problem that I got, well, I just want to be clear that drugs or alcohol was not really. How do you know? Without the toxicology report, you cannot say definitively. Now, I'm not willing to say that they were, but given his history, you can't exclude that.
Yep.
So for you to say that, Skip, there's a reason why you take that. There have been a lot of people that have died under that did what Tiger did and died. And we found out later they were under the influence. But because you took the toxicology, you take no toxicology. And then you turn around and say, well, we're not going to charge him, even though he was going 40+ miles an hour over the speed limit. Well, what you have to do in order to charge somebody for speeding, you have to have a superseding fact. You have to have an improper lane change. What? Skip, I've never heard that in my life. So in other words, if I get on the 405, if I just stay in the right lane and I just take off and go 120, you can't charge me with speeding because I didn't do anything improper to precede the speeding. That's absurd. Everybody knows, Skip, he's supposed to get something. He's supposed to get, reckless driving.
Yep.
Driving too fast for conditions. But come on. I'm glad Tiger's alive. I'm glad Tiger was alive. But
I'm glad nobody else lost their life. Yep.
But to go to travel at this rate of speed, at this time of the morning, in this manner, to say the least, is reckless. That's reckless driving.
Yeah.
They can charge you with that. You don't want to charge him with speed and charge him with reckless driving. But to basically let him come off unscathed, but because, well, he did get hurt pretty bad, he chose to do that. That was not a malfunction of the vehicle. Tiger Woods chose to drive at a high rate of speed and put himself in harm's way. I knew this was going to come out sooner or later.
Yep.
There's no way you could hide up under the guise, well, we have to get his clearance to release this information. I knew that didn't pass the smell test. And I only had, senior law classes at Savannah State. So I knew this wasn't going to fly.
So when we last spoke about this, I said, gee, Tiger suffered enough. I'm not going to get all worked up about it. But I didn't know these facts that they were forced to release yesterday.
You hear what you said, forced.
They were forced. It's good to have friends in high places. This is favorable treatment at the highest level.
Yes.
And I just want to drive home the point. He was traveling 87 miles an hour in a 45 zone. It is downhill, but then according to the sheriff and the other sheriff in the jurisdiction closest to the accident, there's no evidence that he hit the brake at all.
Thank you.
He did not swerve. He did not brake. 87 miles an hour? You go over the median through two oncoming lanes of traffic. Thank God you missed those cars. And then you continue on, you slow down a little bit to 75, and you hit a tree pretty much head on, it looked like.
Right.
And you live to tell about it. Thank you, God, for that one. But now you're telling me that it's, so to speak, pilot error, because they said they believe that he mistakenly, instead of hitting the brake, pressed back down on the gas. Well, who does that?
No.
Who does that under duress? Do you panic and just push harder down on the accelerator? Arguably the greatest golfer ever, who has supreme hand-eye coordination. I just find that preposterous.
I do. So do I.
So no toxicology report, yet they continue to insist that because the official said Woods told deputies that he had not ingested medication or alcohol before the crash.
What the hell?
Okay.
What the hell are they supposed to say?
Okay, well, they did think he was in his right mind, but there's no toxicology. There's no blood test.
But remember, there was someone on the scene said Tiger Woods was unconscious when he got there. And he said he has no memory of what happened.
Look, obviously, he had just had back surgery, so it was possible that he was still on some medication, some pain-killing medication for the recent back surgery. And we know of 2 incidents before, especially the one where he was found sort of asleep behind the wheel. And then there was a blood test taken, and he had all kinds of sleeping aids and pain medication in his system, and he just fell asleep behind the wheel of a running car, just sitting out in the middle of traffic.
And the incident that really led to everything going downhill that night.
That was the second one, or that was
the
first one, before this one.
So we can't rule that out. History plays a role in everything. His history says that he's gotten behind the wheel with things in his system that he shouldn't have, or he shouldn't be operating a vehicle. But for you to continue, who are you trying to convince that Tiger was not under the influence? Oh, he told us. Man, you ask somebody, hey, what am I supposed to tell you? Man, I had like 17. You see when I used to watch cops, they pull somebody over. Well, I had 1 beer. Well, actually, you had a case. You got a case of empty cans in the car right now. And you talking about you had 1 beer. So what's he supposed to tell you? Man, I had been drinking since midnight. Well, it's 7 a.m. Of course, he gonna tell you I didn't have anything. Why didn't you take the toxicology report, the test? Because you subpoenaed for the black box. That's what I don't get, Skip. That's when it started. Hold on. So why if you said, hey, nothing happened, he wasn't an influence, why did you need the black box? Because you knew it didn't pass the smell test. And then other people were telling me, well, Shannon, he can't release it because of what transpired with Kobe. That's a totally different issue. Vanessa wasn't suing because the National Transportation Board deemed it was pilot error. She's suing because someone that didn't have anything to do with the case took pictures and showed them to other people that had nothing to do with the case. That's what she's suing about. Not because that was above their grade. They couldn't tell you what happened to the helicopter. It was after fact, the aftermath.
These were policemen on the scene taking pictures of the carnage.
And then displaying them to show the people that has nothing to do with the crime scene or to determining what happened with the not a crime scene, accident scene, or determining what happened to the crash. That's what she's suing about. This was a totally separate issue. But for you to keep saying there was no alcohol, there was no impairment, for you to keep saying that you don't know. Skip, there's a lot of actors that have died mysteriously. We would have never known had there not been a toxicology report. We've seen a lot of people get in accidents, high-profile play. As a matter of fact, Russell Butler played in the NBA, Skip. They told you how fast he was going and what he had in his system.
Okay.
Tiger Woods going between 84 and 87. Strikes a tree head on at 75 miles an hour. There's no skid marks. Like I said, I have my own theories, but hey.
Well, in the end, we're just thankful nobody got killed, including this man.
He might be a cat. Because he done used about 3 of his lies, Skip.
You're right.
Well, and, the only person that really ultimately knows what happens is Tiger Woods. And right now he's recovering. And we'll wait and see if he decides to speak more about what happened to him. And that's all we have right now.
No mercy.
Despite signing Ryan Fitzpatrick this offseason, Washington could still have their eyes on a quarterback in the draft. One NFL analyst believes that the football team has their hearts set on Trey Lance and could be the next team to, quote, unload all their picks to try to get a quarterback. So, Shannon, can you see Washington pulling this off?
Hell, they gave up 3 first rounders to move up 4 spots. So what's it going to take them to move up to be able to get Trey Lance, Skip?
From 19?
Skip, you have to give up all your picks this year, all your picks next year, and half your picks the year after that. You really, when they say somebody's going all in, if you were to do this, you are absolutely all in. And if I'm Ron Rivera, I'm saying I'm gonna need a contract extension. If you going all giving up all of this, Skip, because you're doomed. This kid he's got to be legit. He's got to be the real deal because he's handicapped you for the foreseeable future. He's got to be it because how do you build around him? You can't build around him through the draft. You got to go in free agency.
Your defense is already pretty good.
But he got to be the real deal, Skip, because like you said, they gave up to move from 6 to 2. So that's 4 spots. What is it going to take you, Skip, to go 19 spots? You're going to have to come up inside it, because remember, what did Andy Reid give up to come up 17 spots?
To 10, right?
10.
Yep.
You're going to have to come way inside the top 10. You might have to come to 4 or 5.
The problem is I don't know where you'd have to get to.
Right.
If they have the right reconnaissance and they think we could go to Cincinnati at 5 to get him, maybe you'd have a shot.
I'll go on with you got to come. No, I believe you got to go to 4. I believe you got to go to 4.
Can you guarantee me that the Jets or 49ers won't take Trey Lance? Can you guarantee it right now? Because I sure can't.
Well, you got to roll the dice. You got to roll the dice game.
Yeah, but if you give the next 2 years ones, then you rolled it where?
Hey.
That's what I told you about the 49ers. They went to 3, and they're prisoners of what the Jets do at 2.
Well, I think they got reconnaissance saying they're going to take Zach Wilson.
Okay, well, they better be right.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. You got, what's the next quarterback draft class like? What's 2022 and 2023 draft class like? Because you got a 30-year-old, 38-year-old bridge, and that's what many see Ryan Fitzpatrick as a bridge. Now, you got Heineke, but he played 1 game. He started 1 game.
And he was good in that one game. He was.
But are you willing to mortgage
the Buccaneers?
Yep. Are you willing to mortgage that? Your entire future with Tyler Heineke? I don't know, Skip, but man, I mean, you got the first rounder, extra first rounder, and a third because of Trent Williams. So you got some. So I tell you what we'll do. We'll give you both of our picks this year. We'll give you the one next year, and we'll give you a second next year. Let us come up.
Okay.
You good with that, Skip? That's 3 first rounders, a 2.
Okay. Now we're back to the question of the hour, the wild card question.
You got to go.
But Mel Kiper calls Trey Lance the most fascinating prospect he's ever attempted to evaluate.
Right.
He's been doing it for, I don't know, 40 years.
Because most of the guys, Skip, you have multiple years to evaluate him. I'm sure he felt the same way about Cam, because Cam really didn't play a whole lot at Florida. He went to Blinn.
But he did play at Auburn in the SEC.
Right.
And we got to see him at Tuscaloosa. We got to see it.
You saw him in the SEC championship game.
We saw it against Oregon. We saw it in the national championship. We saw it.
Yes.
So if he'd only been at Blinn and won back-to-back national championships, you'd be saying, well,
and
I don't know.
Come out and try to go to the NFL. Do you like, well, hold on.
I don't know.
Right.
Okay, so this is FCS. This is North Dakota State. You do have the history of Carson Wentz, did go second overall in the draft. He did flame out in Philly. You think he'll find second life in Indianapolis, obviously. Okay, Trey Lance. I didn't watch a single game he played, but I've been watching a bunch of YouTube. I watched his entire pro day, which you can just call up on YouTube. And I watched the highlight video of his 2019. He played 1 game last year because of COVID. The whole team only played 1 game against Central Arkansas. And he didn't throw it very well in that game. Actually had an interception, threw for 149. But he ran 15 times for 143 yards against Central Arkansas.
Right.
And I look at 2019. He's 28 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. They won all 16 games, including the national championship, and he ran for 1,100 yards in 16 games. In his college career, he averaged almost 7 yards a carry, and they take off yards for sacks in college, which they don't do in pro football.
Right.
So it's extraordinary what he was doing with his legs, as well as he's got a big arm. I'm not saying he's deadly accurate, because I didn't see that in his pro day. He's got a big arm. He's got a real sweet release. It looks good. It looks pure to me. So he's growing on me. And when I watch the highlight video, again, it's FCS. He's just running kids over. He just he's going Cam Newton on people at 6'3" and 7'8". So let's call him 6'4". 224 is what he measured or weighted his pro day. Big kid, big arm, winners intangibles at this level. So did Cam. Well, he's growing on me. Like, I'm starting to say, well, wait a second. Am I missing something here? Because I did not TV him. You know, I didn't just sit like I do with everybody else and eye test him live on television. I don't watch coach's tape. I just eye test. And I can draw a pretty good beat on a kid just watching him on
I just saw him in the national championship game, Skip, and he was spectacular. He had a bunch of yards passing. He had a bunch of yards rushing. I misspoke, Skip. Washington has San Francisco's third-round pick for the Trent Williams.
Okay.
So they don't have an extra first-rounder. Okay. So basically, Skip, you're going to have to give up your first. Obviously, you're going to switch spots with someone this year.
Yeah.
You're going to have to give up next year's and the year after. One.
I agree.
At bare minimum, plus.
Because that's what the 49ers did to go to 3.
Right.
Right?
And they went from 12 to 3.
12 to 3.
Skip, you're going up.
19?
Yeah.
Unless you knew enough to know that Trey Lance was going to be the one quarterback who fell to, well, let's say to 10, to Dallas's pick.
Right.
You said, Jerry, we'll give you.
Jerry's like, I ain't doing no business with y'all.
Well, he might.
But they had Jerry. Jerry and Dan Snyder are really good friends.
They are. They are.
So that. But I still couldn't help you, Skip. If you brought me a trade, if you in my division, I don't care.
Okay. All right. But somewhere up there, Denver at 9. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can figure that
we work with you.
You're a weed on Denver.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. We work with you.
Okay. So what's your gut feeling on Trey Lance? Is it possible we're all overlooking the fact he's the best quarterback in this draft? Will he turn out to be the guy? He might.
He might. But the question is, Skip, like you said, how high? I believe that what highest you can go is 4, Atlanta. Obviously, you can't go any higher than that. Nobody else is going to trade with you.
They're not going to do it.
Right.
No.
So everybody else is there. The Jets have moved on from Sam Darnold. Urban Meyer's made it abundantly clear. They're taking Trevor Lawrence. Jets have moved on, so they're taking a quarterback. The 49ers are taking a quarterback. So nobody's trading with you. So you got to start with Atlanta at 4 or Cincinnati at 5. But I believe your best case scenario would be Atlanta at 4.
I ask you again, if you're the decision maker for the Atlanta Falcons right now, are you willing to risk that you give up Trey Lance and go back to 19 plus you get first rounders in the future?
Yes.
Are you willing to risk that he becomes Cam Newton, like he becomes an MVP candidate?
Right.
Are you willing to let that go when you have an aging Matt Ryan who might have a year left of high-level quarterback? Man,
that's tough.
Boy, it is.
That's why the decision maker. That's why they make that money, Skip. Because you got Julio, you got Calvin Ridley, you got some weapons outside. Can we build the defense, Skip, up? Can we keep Matt Ryan for this year, maybe next year, and then hopefully the next year there's a quarterback that's going to be available?
Maybe. Just for the record, my guy Spencer Rattler at the University of Oklahoma, I'll bet he'll be the highest picked quarterback a year from now. He'll be the guy. And he is growing on me. He got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but he can also use his legs to hurt you. And he's got a whip of an arm. So he'll be next year's it kid coming into the draft.
I ain't really been too sold on those Oklahoma quarterbacks.
All right. Well, there's this kid named Kyler. Do you remember him? You were down on him, and you're starting to jump on that bandwagon with one foot. Anyway.
Hold on. Weren't y'all 6-2 at some point last year? Y'all were 6-2 and winning the division. Then what happened?
Who are you talking about?
The Cardinals.
Oh, the Cardinals.
Yes.
I know who the y'all is.
Yeah. You with the Cardinals. No. You with anybody? I'm starting to see you. I mean,
he got banged up.
I told you that would happen.
Got his shoulder banged up.
I told you that would happen.
He's a smaller man, but he's stout.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So what you gonna do?
Next year they're a playoff team.
Who?
The Cardinals. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, I think that we might have to talk about that another time because I think that is a very interesting debate, and I agree.
I did.
Kyler,
and they were.
Special. Very special. No mercy. Saturday night, the NASCAR Cup Series moves to FS1, where we could see our 8th different winner of the season. Which all the short track action with the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500 from Martinsville Saturday at 7 Eastern on FS1 and anywhere on the Fox Sports app. So, Kevin Durant finally returned from missing the past 23 games and could not have been more efficient. Coming off the bench, KD scored 17 points on 5 of 5 shooting from the floor that included 2 3-pointers and a perfect 5 for 5 from the free throw line. Kyrie led the team with 24 points last night, and as we've discussed on the show, James Harden was playing at an MVP level until he recently tweaked his hamstring, which they're going to be watching. So, Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is with us now. Chris, can you see the Nets winning it all?
Jen, that's all I can see practically. I see that as clearly as I can see Skip's pocket square. I mean, This is an embarrassment of riches. Look, if everybody's healthy, Kevin Durant, James Harden, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, everyone. I only see one team out there that can beat the Brooklyn Nets, and that's the Brooklyn Nets. It has to be some type of implosion. Like Kyrie, he's not in the mental space he needs to be in. He gets tired of James Harden handling the ball and making the decisions. Blake Griffin gets tired of kind of being a role player. DeAndre Jordan is upset that he's not getting the same minutes now because LaMarcus Aldridge is a starter. Like, it has to be some type of internal strife or problem for this team to lose because they just have too much. And I've been concerned about it's completely unprecedented for a team to play probably what will be about 15 games together with their big three before they get into the playoffs. We've never seen a team do that and win a championship. But I was talking to Kerry Kittles, the former Net, who played in 2 finals with Jason Kidd years ago. We talked earlier this week, and he was saying, look, today's NBA is just so simple where every team does the same thing. It's all high pick and roll or drive and kick, spot up by the three-point line, or roll to the basket as a big man for an alley-oop or something like that. Every team's doing it. It's not like 15 years ago where some teams did this, some teams did that. Everybody had different identities, and it would take you a while to develop some type of chemistry. Now, and I think he's right, because you saw last night, I mean, Kevin Durant just fit in like he hadn't been gone. When James Harden got there, he fit in like he hadn't been gone. So they can get an open shot every time down the floor because they got 3 guys that can beat you off the dribble, and thus you're going to have to double team them or they're going to go all the way to the rim and finish. And when you double team them, they're kicking it to a great shooter in Joe Harris. Now a guy that can shoot in Blake Griffin. LaMarcus Aldridge can shoot. Not to mention KD or James Harden. Like, it is just, this team looks like it could be one of the best teams we've ever seen, let alone the best team this season.
Yeah, they look great. There's no way around it. They looked unbelievable. Kevin Durant picked right up where he left off, where I thought he would, because he's a 3-level player. He can do it all. I think the thing is that you look at LaMarcus Aldridge. He's playing better now with the Nets skill than he did the last 2 to 3 years that he played with your Spurs. And Greg Popovich probably looking at him like, why can you give us that? But, hey, he was unhappy with his role in San Antonio.
See, Kawhi was unhappy, LaMarcus.
Maybe
it's a Popovich problem.
Don't do that, Skip. Don't do that. No, Pop is the guy. You got Blake, who's a good role player. Blake is...
Never thought he'd be called a role player, but go ahead.
But that's
I'm
what,
with you.
But that's what he is, Skip.
Yep.
And he's like, well, people said I wasn't any good. No, you're the same player. You just can't carry a team like you were supposed to do with the Clippers, what you were supposed to do with the Pistons. In this role, you're fitting a role. They got 3 other guys that's going to do the heavy lifting. I love Nick Claxton. You're right, Chris. DeAndre Jordan, is he going to get upset? Because it ain't like he's got his minutes cut. He not playing. And then they got, I just want to say his name, Alizé. Oh, Alizé Johnson. You don't know Alizé? Hey, Chris, you know Alizé for the crib? He's getting major minutes. So they're loaded. Now, Skip, when I look at this, Chris, Philly, after watching them, they're better than I thought because you know why? They can play defense. They got Tobias Harris that can guard, Ben Simmons that can guard, Danny Green that can guard, Joel Embiid, hey, he's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, and Milwaukee with Holiday, Giannis, Chris Middleton. So it's going to be very, very...
Can they beat these Nets?
They got to hope the Nets got to have a couple of bad games. I can see the Sixers pushing them to 7 games. I don't know if they can beat them, but I see the Sixers can push them to 7 games. I don't know if Milwaukee has enough firepower at the end of the day to beat them.
So, Chris, back to you. You've been covering this league for a long time. I have been covering and closely following this league for an even longer time than you have. In all my days, I have never seen a team this deep in talent. In all my days, you can go back all the greatest teams we ever covered. Nobody has had this depth of talent that the Nets have assembled because no team has ever had 6 players on its roster who have made multiple All-NBA teams. This is the first one ever. And all the players that Shannon named down the line, it's an embarrassment, as you said, of riches. And I've told Shannon again and again, only the Nets can beat the Nets. Well, now only familiarity could undermine the Nets because they just haven't played enough together. But I was just dumbfounded watching Kevin Durant, who immediately turned rust to dust last night because he just walks in and is like, can we see that first shot? He just comes off a low pick and just runs to the elbow, and Kyrie says, here. And he just turns around and does what he always does, like he hadn't missed a beat. And he rips his mid-range elbow jump shot, which he is lethal at doing. And he goes 5 for 5, and he has 7 rebounds, and he has 5 assists, and he looked like he'd never left. And it looks like their chemistry is so natural that they're almost arrogant about it in a good way. They're just all like giggling about it. This is fun. This is so easy. It looks like the game is too easy for them, but all the pieces are fitting right before your very eyes. I just don't know if the big 3 have had enough reps together to withstand some kind of playoff adversity, because you know they're going to get faced with, they'll lose a game 1 or maybe a game 2, and all of a sudden they'll have to go somewhere else, and it's going to be 1-1 at the other arena.
You have to take back home court by winning on the road.
You have to show us what you're made of. You have to, under fire, show us that you guys can share the ball like you shared it last night. As Kevin said after the game, we just move bodies and move the basketball. It's easy. Well, it looked easy last night because you just obliterated the Pelicans. So my question is, I just don't know about familiarity. That's the only question I have, because if that doesn't matter, if chemistry really doesn't matter, if it's just natural chemistry, they're going to just wipe out the East, and I fear they're going to wipe out the Clippers in the finals, because it's going to be the Clippers winning the West.
Well, Skip, you're right. I mean, and that's been my concern too. But as I talk to people around the league, not everyone says this, but more people than not say it doesn't matter. That them playing 15 to 20 games together before the playoffs is enough, which sounds ridiculous because in the however long they've had basketball, we've never seen this. We've never seen it. The Celtics, when they came together, right, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett, they played all season together, and they got pushed in those first 2 rounds. Both rounds, they went 7 games, and then 6 in the conference finals and 6 in the finals. So even for them, it was easy. I think this team has a few things going for it otherwise. One, you can see they all are bought in, at least at this point, right? Blake and LaMarcus, they look relieved. Like, the burden of carrying a franchise is no longer on me. I'm happy to be this role. That's what they look like. And everybody else, you know, they're coming together at the right time where they've all done great things individually. All they want to do is win a title. That's the only thing they can do to add to each of their individual legacies, is win another championship, or the first championship for some of the guys. So that is something that's really working in their favor. And then the role players, you mentioned Blake looking great, LaMarcus. It's because the other guys, they've either got 2 or 3 stars out there. It's been 2 for now. But they draw so much attention that Blake is wide open and LaMarcus is wide open. Heck, Claxton, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, TLC, Jeff Green, they look great too. Like, that's the thing. When you have stars that draw so much attention, we know this. Everybody in the NBA can play. None of them are scrubs. They just can't create their own stuff at that level. But when you give them open shots, at the rim if they're a big man, or in the perimeter if they're a shooter, they're going to hit them.
You're right, but that's the thing. You said Blake and LaMarcus is not required to carry a team. That's a heavy burden. Everybody says, I want that responsibility. I want to carry a team. But do you really want that when the expectations are night in and night out? We saw it Now, a lot of this, Blake, his body failed him. Skip, the legs, his knees, they just gave out on him. He started getting, every other week he had an injury that kept him out for a week or 2 weeks. LaMarcus should have stayed in Portland with CJ and Dame. I believe he'd have been better off there than he ever was in San Antonio, Skip. But Dame had started to grow, and he wanted his own team because Dame was starting to challenge him. And he went down to San Antonio, and lo and behold, there was a homegrown kid that when Tim Duncan left, Pop gave him the responsibility. And he took the team over. So LaMarcus was like, damn, I left there to come here to be the man, and you got the man in plain sight and didn't know it.
Okay, so final X factor in this equation. They have a first-year head coach who had never coached before, two-time league MVP, but Steve Nash had never coached. And so far, so good, because he seems to be pushing all the right buttons, even though Kyrie initially said, we don't even need a coach.
They don't
and even though you pointed out, Shannon Sharp, that Steve Nash was not pleased that Kyrie did not give him any heads up on his hiatus that he took, right? But so far, maybe they don't need a coach. I don't know. Maybe he's just going along.
Somebody got to call timeout.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying, Chris? Somebody got to. The players don't really call timeout unless they get in a crowded situation with the ball. But other than that, his job is to call timeouts to suppress the runs. When somebody go on a 10-0 run or a 12-2 run, you see Steve hit him with a quick one. Right? That's his job.
Okay, but somebody has to say, no, you can't go back in the game because you can't play 7 guys at once, because I'm sure a lot of guys would like to go get their minutes, right?
Well, no. The only 3 guys' minutes that you're worried about is those big 3 guys. Everybody else, you get what's left over of the minutes.
Okay, but somebody will complain at some point,
don't worry
because
about it.
they always do.
Well, you only going to get like 3 months to complain, because we're going to get you up out of here. Because they got a good thing. Don't mess that up.
You're going to get them up out of here?
Yeah. Hold on. Who's going to complain? Well, the big 3 is not going to complain, because it's their hide that's on the line. But Skip, if they don't win a championship, they're not going to blame Blake. They're not going to blame LaMarcus, Chris. They're going to blame the big 3.
Right.
So as long as the big 3 are happy, everybody else is going to get a chance to eat.
So are you willing to concede right now the next
No.
No?
Because LeBron, that ankle, they said that ankle getting ready. That ankle getting ready and rest. We rested.
Really?
Rested.
Rest and no rust for LeBron?
Hey, Chris, when baby GOAT, and old Shaq Drummond, it's over. It's over, Chris.
So that's your big 3. The Nets have only had their big 3, like you guys have pointed out, for 7 games. So we are far
We
from
had
seeing
one
their
game without big
potential.
3.
Far from knowing just how good the Nets have the ability of being.
Big
Chris,
2.
we appreciate you joining us.
No mercy.
Lee Elder was an honorary starter at this year's Masters 46 years after he became the first black golfer to play in the tournament. Since then, there have only been 5 black players to play in the Masters, most notable of which was Tiger Woods, who became the first black player to win the Masters in 1997 before winning it 4 more times. So, Shannon, since Tiger broke through by winning it in 97, why haven't we seen more black golfers on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, it's a bad sport. Clubs cost money. Clubs are not cheap as a basketball. Clubs are not cheap as a football. And you got to play this every day. Skip, I didn't know you sit this down. Okay, I practice Monday and Tuesday. I'll see you back on Friday. Golf doesn't work like that. You got to play that every single day.
See your big brother.
Yes, every day.
He plays
every
day.
single day. And when it's Sundays, if he's not playing, he's putting, he's chipping, he's working on some aspect of the game.
Yep.
And in green fees, you just don't walk out there and say, oh yeah, I'll just go here, just go here. No. It's like it's a rich sport, Skip. Let's call it what it is. Look, in Tiger, what we thought was going to happen is that he was going to bring a lot of, young black kids. No, what he did, he brought a lot of young white kids, because all those ones who they talk, from Rory to Justin Thomas to DJ to Shambo, all of them, Tiger.
Absolutely.
So
they were inspired.
Yes.
Yep.
What we thought, he gonna get a lot of black, young blacks. But what he did.
Do you remember the first commercial?
I am Tiger Woods.
I am Tiger Woods.
Yes.
All of them minority kids, or it looked like a lot of.
But what Tiger did, Skip, he brought a lot of casual black fans. He brought a lot of casual white fans.
I agree.
That's what he did. It's the same thing. We thought Venus and Serena was gonna bring a lot of black girls to the tennis court. Not like we thought.
maybe more than this.
Way more than this. Way more. Because we got Sloane Stevenson, we got Naomi Osaka, we got Tiffany Townsend. We got a lot
at a high level.
Right, right. Even before them, you had Zena Garrison and Lori McNeil, and before them, Alfield Gibson. So
absolutely.
But Skip, as great as Tiger was, we just knew, okay, man, this thing finna be overrun with young blacks out there playing golf. It just costs money. Them clubs are expensive. What, 14 clubs in a bag? Is that what you need?
Well, you can, yeah. If you're not a pro, you can have more.
Yeah, well, okay, well.
I got more.
Here's the thing.
Yeah. I need them.
If it's expensive to have 14, you get more. So you might have. So the average kid might have about 4 or 5 clubs in there. Basically, a driver, a putter, and a couple of wedges. It costs money, and it's a time-consuming sport. Skip, you go to the golf club, Albert, what you spend? 3-4 hours, bare minimum.
Okay. This issue has eaten me up for years and years. And just for the record, I wasn't a rich kid. I didn't really have any money. My father went down and bought me clubs at the pawn shop by Northwestern. That was the company. And all you had in that starter set was a driver, a 3, 5, 7, 9. That's it.
Right.
Here, and a putter, obviously. And it was a junky old, generic putter. And that's all.
You have a Scotty Cameron?
No, well, they didn't. I didn't even know. It was
He didn't have a name on it.
Yeah. So the point is, I grew up at a public golf course that is really good. I think it's one of the best in the country. It's called Lincoln Park. It has an east and a west. It has, again, 36 holes.
Right.
But when I was growing up there, it was in a black neighborhood, and I would say a third of the players were black. And now, not so much. When I go back in June, July, I'll play there 3 or 4 times, and I won't see that many black people there. But I do support and have for many years a program there called First Tee, and they have First Tee all over this country at a lot of courses like this. And if the kid, any minority kid or any underprivileged kid at all, no matter what color, if they want clubs and balls and playing privileges for free at a really good golf course, they got it. And our program there, First Tee, has produced some college golfers, but no pro golfers.
Right.
Well, you know how I feel about golf. It's just the hardest game in the world.
Exactly.
It's so hard, and it comes and it goes, and it's just maddening. You think you have it, and then you don't have it.
Right.
And it's frustrating.
Because Skip, I'm not in golf. I'm not competing against you. I'm competing against the court.
That is correct.
So it's the one sport
that little white ball doesn't move until you move.
Exactly.
So you're not reacting to your opponent across the net, right? And so I don't know what's happened here, but obviously a lot of black kids have chosen to go other directions, and I can't blame them because golf can be boring and hard.
It is.
It can. It wears me out. There are a lot of times I just say, I'm going to stop doing this because I'm wasting my time at it because I can't, I'll never control, get where I can play the same way every time because you can't master golf.
And that's the frustration part. Okay. Skip, just imagine if Kevin Durant, he went on the streak and scored he had 10 straight games where he scored 30 plus. And then he has 10 straight games where he scored no more than 5. Well, that's what you're going up against golf. You might shoot par. And then guess what? The next 3 times, you might shoot 100.
Okay. So when I was growing up, remember, I'm not saying there were superstars, but there were black stars who played on the PGA Tour.
Calvin
and one
Pete.
of them, Lee Elders, would hit the ceremonial first ball this morning. Calvin Pete, I was there at the Masters when for a while he was up on the leaderboard. And Jim Dent and Jim Thorpe and Charlie Sifford and Pete Brown. I can go on. There's a whole bunch of them, and they were all playing at the same time, and it was pretty cool.
Yes.
And it was like normal to me that there were some black players on tour. Since Tiger knocked the gates down at Augusta National in 1997, there's Harold Varner. He's a nice player, but he's won 1 tournament. It was on the European Tour. It was the Australian PGA. Right. That's it. And this Cameron Champ, who's quoted now in this big USA Today article that we're talking about, he's pretty good. He's won 3 times 2 on the PGA Tour. He's biracial golfer, but he's pretty good. Right. And then lately, I don't know if you followed this, but there was this kid, Kamaya Johnson from Tallahassee. There's a tour called the Advocates Tour, and it's to provide and improve opportunities for black and minority golfers. Right. Well, he won the championship of the Advocates Tour, and it catapulted him into sponsors exemptions starting at the Pebble Beach tournament this year. Right. So he played 3 pro tournaments. And at Pebble Beach, He shoots 81 the first day and then 77 and obviously misses the cut. And for those who don't follow golf, 81's not good.
Right.
You got to be able to at least break 80.
Well, here's the thing. It's good if you skip Bayless.
Oh, I'll take it. I would take it
exactly.
today.
It's not good if you're a pro.
Correct. And then he goes to Bay Hill Arnie's tournament, and he shoots 84.79. And then he goes to Honda. These are sponsors exemptions where you're welcome.
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah.
And at the Honda down in Florida, he shoots 81.79. He's missing the cut each time. Well, this is not an auspicious start to his career. And I thought maybe he's Tiger Woods.
He might need to play. He might need to play with that one they have on at Tahoe. Maybe he can beat that.
Beat Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, maybe he can beat Aaron Rodgers or Steph Curry.
I know.
Tony Romo.
No, I got it. So I hark back to the early days of great pro golf like Ben Hogan and Byron Nelson. They were poor kids from Fort Worth. So it was different. But now we come to Tiger. Was he a rich kid? No, he wasn't a rich kid.
No.
But his father was retired military, obsessed with golf, had Tiger hitting balls into the net when he was 2 years old. He was so good at it that he got him on Mike Douglas's national TV show, hitting balls at 2 years old.
Right.
And the father had privileges to play at military golf courses. So there was one nearby in the Long Beach area where Tiger grew up. So he had ability to play a golf course. Well, I don't know how he went to all those junior tournaments because where the dividing line is between the poor kids and the rich kids, it's a travel sport. But kids travel on AAU basketball and baseball and they travel like crazy. Well, I don't know who provided the funds for Tiger to travel, but he hit all the big junior tournaments and obviously played in the U.S. Amateur because he dominated it.
Well, if you
times.
get another Tiger Woods, I'm sure he can find sponsors.
Maybe, but you have to show the ability in high school.
Right.
And obviously, Tiger went to Stanford.
Right.
Okay, but you got to show supreme ability, and maybe somebody'd say, "Well, I'll buy in, I'll invest in you, and I'll back you." But it's just hard for me to believe that the opportunities aren't nil. They're out there for these kids, but you got to want it. You got to seize it and run with it.
Yeah, Skip, I just don't know maybe the interest is not where it is. I mean, basketball and football is more interesting, maybe to young black kids than golf is. Like I said, it brought a lot of casual black fans because everybody I know once Tiger Woods won.
I agree.
Every black that I knew started playing. I'm like, bro, you ain't never played golf. Never. Now they go out there and buy a golf club. Man, I need to go get fitted for some clubs. What?
Yep, I agree.
Your clothes don't even fit, and you gonna talk about you gonna go get some clubs to get fitted.
I told you my late mother, she was a golfer, but she wouldn't watch professional golf on television until 1997. Then all she wanted to do is watch Tiger. And when he would be hurt or out, she just wouldn't watch. Okay, so here's the older white woman in Oklahoma City, and she's just all about Tiger Woods. Well, he moved the needle like no golfer's ever moved the needle.
And it's never going to be moved like that again.
And that's why you hate it for the tour's sake and for right now the Masters' sake because he's not there.
And that's why all these young guys pay Tiger homage. Because they know the money that they're making is directly traced back to him.
Same for Phil Mickelson.
Yes, absolutely.
No mercy.
For the first time since his ankle injury, we have now seen Dak Prescott throwing passes on the field. According to Ian Rappaport, Dak is expected to be ready to go for training camp, but the Cowboys won't do anything to put him at risk while on the practice field. So, Shannon, do you believe that Dak will be 100% by week 1?
I do. Dak injured his ankle in week 5. It's almost going to be about 11 months, Skip. That's more than time enough to heal. I believe Dak will be back, and he'll be the Dak that we saw before he got injured. Skip, Dak is not a scrambling quarterback. He's mobile, he can move, but he's not looking to run like Lamar or Kyler Murray. That's not what he is. He's looking to try to throw the ball down the field. Dak runs if you dare him to run. Even you've called for this, should run Dak, call more design. Yeah, a little bit more design run. But I think Dak should play. That was a freak accident that happened with that freak injury. I don't think it's going to curtail Dak's play or the way he plays in any way. So I expect to see Dak this year the way that I've seen him for the past 5 years, playing football the way he knows how, going out there, being smart, and then throwing the ball and trying to win games. So
as happy as I was to see him throwing in the video we just saw, He did look a little ginger to me, just a little stiff-legged, like he wasn't cutting completely loose, like his legs were not quite working in sync the way they usually do. But he's coming off not one, but two surgeries on that ankle. He needed a second one just to make sure it was working right. And again, he's been telling people, I could be 120%. Like, I'll be better than ever.
Right.
Well, I sure hope
May,
so.
June, July. They don't have training camp until July, so we got still another 3 months.
Yeah. So they are saying they're going to protect him in camp. I don't know how much I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have a preseason or not. I think we are.
Yeah.
Hope so.
They're saying they want 3 games.
Yeah. Okay. So he will play very sparingly, if at all, in the preseason, I suspect. All I care about is game number 1.
Right.
Because obviously they have spent a huge chunk of their salary cap to re-sign him. He got the biggest signing.
It ain't count with $22 million. That ain't no money.
Okay, but that's the first year. Then it goes to like 38 and 44 and, 47, right? Okay, so he got the biggest signing bonus in the history of the National Football League, the most guaranteed money in the history of the National Football League. And obviously, I need him as a huge fan to be able to live up to that. So he's got to be 120% healthy. So I'm hoping against hope that he's going to be right for game 1, because this is serious business that he went through.
NFC Championship game would justify the contract if he gets to the NFC Championship game this year.
Justify the contract?
Yeah.
I need 1 Super Bowl. You mean this year or over the 4?
No, well, obviously you want a Super Bowl. I'm just saying this year. If he gets to the NFC Championship game this year.
I won't specify this year, because then I'll jinx this year. But I will tell you, over 4, I need a Super Bowl championship.
Just one. If you get one, the
contract, in 4 years, absolutely worth every last penny. If he's the reason, which he will have to be, that they go win a Super Bowl, yes, sir. You better believe it.
Well, you know what that means. That's going to happen. So the next contract going to be $50 million a year.
Okay.
You good with that?
He would be worth it. If he won 1 Super Bowl,
hey, that's
I remind you, Jerry Jones has 3 Lombardi trophies in his office. The last one was won off the 1995 season.
Yeah, he got those in his first 5 years, though.
Okay.
And he's been owning the team for 30 years.
And since then, he has not even been back to 1 NFC Championship game. So I'm not going to jinx this year by buying into your, is it okay if he gets it? Okay. Yeah. No, I don't want.
So this year, what's the expectations this year? Win the division, because we already got a bet on that one.
Yeah, well, that's easy. They can win this division by default.
Yeah, hold on. You gave me the field, though. You gave me the rest of the team.
I gave you everybody, and I fear Jalen Hurts the most, but I don't really fear Fitzmagic. I don't.
Oh, you fear Fitzmagic? He already done that to Tom Brady twice.
Okay, but you're betting on Daniel Jones.
I'm betting on. I ain't got to bet on nobody.
Yeah.
I got the division like you did me. You didn't have to bet on anybody. You was just taking everybody that played Gonzaga until somebody came along and beat them. So I don't have to bet on anybody. I got the field. I got Washington football team, the Giants, or the Eagles, whichever beats the Cowboys.
Okay, but I have Dak Prescott in a division without a credible quarterback yet, until Jalen Hurts turns into that.
Guess what?
But that team is not good enough.
That's what the other team said about the same division. We in this division with not another credible quarterback. They said that about your team, too.
They're not saying
they are.
that.
You make it seem like you got Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes or Brady.
Well,
you don't.
I got 2 Pro Bowls. What you got?
Hello.
You got none.
No, we got none. But that guy that went to the Pro Bowl, he retired. He's in Indy now.
Yeah.
Oh, walking tour.
Oh, well,
walking tour.
Good luck to them.
They gonna win the division.
Really?
They gonna win the division.
Oh,
this year.
do we have 1 case on that?
We got a case on it.
Okay, thank you.
You do? All right.
See, you made the bet.
I walked into it.
We're not slurping do. No mercy. Lakers signed guard Ben McLemore this week, but it's an old tweet from LeBron about his new teammate that's making the rounds. On draft night in 2013, LeBron tweeted, quote, "They sleeping on Ben McLemore. Just watch," when the guard was selected 7th overall. Perhaps the more interesting note, though, is that McLemore is now the 6th player on the Lakers who is represented by Clutch Sports. So, Shannon, big deal or no big deal that McLemore is now the 6th Clutch client on the Lakers?
It's no big deal. So are you telling me the Lakers wouldn't have interest in him if he wasn't with Clutch? I think the thing is he's a 3-and-D guy. He can play defense and he can make the 3 ball. He shot 40% from 3 the last 2 years. Now he's down this year, but I think it's his ability to play. He was on a roster, Skip, right?
So LeBron's goal is to own a team, and I think he's already on his way to owning and operating the Los Angeles Lakers. He's the GM of the team.
No,
he's
not.
signing all of
Rob
his guys.
Pelinka is.
He represents the whole team
Don't do
now.
that.
He controls it.
I never heard this when David Falk and all these guys, Arm Tellum and CAA. How many teams you think CAA got in more than one client on the team? I just need to know that.
Well, they didn't play for the team that they were landing clients on, right?
I can't help that. LeBron happens to be a client that's on the team.
Well, I just hope all the clients that he chose are good players enough to help him out, because it's his fault if he doesn't have enough help.
Hey, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right?
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just let help. That's going to be the reason that slow us down. It won't be somebody beating us. If we healthy, if we whole,
Lakers get Ben McLemore versus DeMarcus Cousins goes to the Clippers. Good luck.
Yeah,
Getting healthy. That is what matters. All right, that is it for Undisputed. We're back same time tomorrow morning. The Herd is on right now. Have a good one.